waiting to hear what two jackwagons have to say about stuff.
Hey, it's the Jackwagon. It's the
Hey,
Jackwagon show.
It sounds really cheesy when they say, "Hey, it's really great to be here." But I'm honest when I say, "Hey, it's really great to be here."
Okay, we're live.
Great to be here, but I'm honest when I say, "Hey, it's really great to be here."
Caller, turn your radio down.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just calling to see if maybe you guys play.
You remember that one time when you guys did that thing that you did?
Oh, it was so good.
Hello, everyone.
It's nature's way of telling you
something's
it's
wrong.
time to get off the good foot. Get on the good foot. Get off the good foot. Get on the good foot.
Get on the good foot.
Get on the good foot.
Get up off that thing.
Because you got ants in your pants, and it's probably a sound idea to.
I don't know that James Brown song. I'm not familiar with that.
You don't know that?
Get up off of that thing. I don't. I'm not sure. Hey, chat. Who's on?
What?
Is it just me and you, Steve? Is that all?
I think, but that's okay. I mean, heck, we can
chat it up, man.
We don't talk offline, so
everybody saw the Stooges and they just ran away and they were like, "Oh, this is Oldies Radio." Yay! Hey! Oldies Radio. Hey, we wanted to tell you. We wanted to give you a firm handshake and tell you.
And a pat on the back.
And a pat on the back. We wanted to tell you that you, in fact, won the mixtape game. You had submitted the most. Let me see if I have the card around here. Where was it? You had submitted the most ideas for the mixtape game.
And you said you were apprehensive or whatnot, but you came out and you were hitting them out of the park.
Here we go. Oldies Radio, you had 9 selections out of 22. I think was what our final total was with that. 22. I may still have I may still have it up. Nope, that's not it. Yeah. So awesome, nice work there.
And thank you, John. So I don't know if you were going to get to that.
Yeah, John had a couple.
He made the
playlist. I understand what you're saying. Go ahead and give John kudos.
Kudos, John. All right, back to you, Mark.
Kudos, John. Yeah, John, thank you for putting together the mix.
Very much so. Thank you.
If you like Spotify, if you have Spotify, he put a mix on there that you can just, listen to it at your leisure. Craig had 4. Nice work, Craig. Steve, you and I were both tied with 6, and we didn't do that on purpose. So, we did have the lion's share of the mix between the two of us. Yeah. And then Freebird was mentioned 23 times before I stopped counting. So,
which was only after a couple of songs. So
right?
Who knows what the real number is?
I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop counting this. So, that's that. So, Oldies Radio, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Thank you.
Nice to hang out. Thank you. And to do all that. So, it was a privilege and a pleasure. So, what do you say, Steve? Let's get into it. It's 5 after, so
let's do it.
What do you have for show and tell?
Oh, I have. It has been there's a theme, and I want to see if you can kind of pick up on it. First off, we're starting with an album that usually gets played about once a year for me, and I think you know what it is because you and I talked a little bit about it offline, and that's Miles Davis on the Corner. What are your thoughts on this record?
So it's funny that you brought that record up because I know as we talk into the Stooges, I sort of kind of really got into the Stooges and was really listening to Miles Davis at like the exact same time.
Perfect.
So I was, I would consider that my wilderness period without being too personal. Like definitely when you sort of have kind of lived some of your life and you sort of have gone out to the edge of the forbidden zone, right?
Did you stand and look down and lost a lot of friends there, baby? You got no time to mess around.
Yes. So yeah. So I was listening to, but I was listening to like really challenging music. So I was really getting into the Stooges, which I feel are a challenging group, right? That's the reason
To an
why they weren't
extent, yes.
why they weren't popular. I was listening to a lot of Miles Davis. I was listening to that one. I was listening to Evil Live quite a bit, the Jack Johnson stuff. And right at that time was when all those like big box sets were coming out. You know, do you have any of those
Oh
ones?
yeah,
Okay.
I do. I've got the Brew, and I've got. I don't think I have In a Silent Way, which is odd because that's my favorite. But I've got the Jack Johnson one, and that's fantastic.
Yeah. So I've pretty much all of them aside from I think I might be missing one or two. I have all like the really early stuff that like the real, kind of the real, cornerstone jazz kind of stuff, like the
See,
one with like
I don't have any of those.
if I see him, I'll pick one up for you because the Miles Davis and John Coltrane one goes for pretty cheap,
Yes,
and that's
yeah.
I think it's like you can probably get for like $25 now. It's pretty cheap.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the red
Yeah.
one. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like the red.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Think of me if you see that. Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
But that's the one that was like the one that had just come out, and like all the other ones I was able to get used.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to like at the time, even now, like paying 100 and some. I know that you and I do that sort of on a regular basis where it's like, oh, hey, here's this box set coming out, and it's like, okay, there's $100, it's gone. At that time frame, that just was not happening. That was not something that I
Sure.
could imagine doing that. But I listened to that record every day before I went into work for probably about several months, maybe like 2 or 3
Oh,
months,
wow.
and it would just put me in because the funny thing is that track was the very first track on there I could listen to by the time I left my house, and then I would get to work and it would just be finishing. So it was just the exact amount of time for the commute, which was kind of weird. But it definitely put me in sort of like an angry mood walking into work every day. So yes, I love
Which
that
is
album.
exactly how you want to be right when you go into work,
Yeah,
right?
no, I mean, like I said, it was in a dark place at that time, right?
Sure.
Um,
Sure. I understand.
so I mean, yeah, if you want to really talk about it, I would. At that time, I was working in an office, and one of the things that I would do, and I've done this a couple of times in my career, it was like I cleaned my entire desk off, like took everything down, so it was just like my desk, and then I would work in there, and there would be like no pictures, or there would be like no little poster kind of things, and nothing like that. Like it was just my desk, like it was like you're in prison, you know what I mean? Like, and I would do that,
It
and
sounds like a very Henry Rollins thing to do.
yeah, but it gives you like a good mental reset where you kind of are like, okay, this is what I. And then the problem was at the time that like I had like I would go to my desk and like the mouse would be gone because somebody'd be like, oh, nobody's sitting at this desk. I need a
And so,
mouse, and they would take the mouse, and I'd come into work and be like, well, I can't work. I don't have a mouse. So you guys gotta get me a mouse. So, but yeah, no, it's a great album. It's a great album. What is 1974?
two, I
Two.
think, or
Okay.
four. Yeah, it's 72, late 72.
72. Okay, I knew it was sometime around
So,
in there. So what are your thoughts on it? I mean, I've been babbling enough about it.
it's good. It's really good, but I don't think that it's on the same par with like In a Silent Way or some of those other records that were around that time. I think it's just a hair below. But I do like what's the next one? Get Up With It. I like that pretty well too. But that's a good record. It's good. Is it amazing if it's light all just need to be in your collection? I would say no, but it's a
Ooh.
very
Okay. So I don't know, man. I think it's.
all right. Let me backtrack.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, but there's a caveat too. Yes, it does belong in your collection, but you need to. There are other albums that I think you need prior to getting that one.
Okay, that's fair.
If that's fair.
That's
So
yeah. And I mean, I would say it's really. I think once you because there's some albums that are like is it Zimbabwe? Is that one of the albums I think, or Zambia? What is it? I don't remember. It's like a 2 disc
I know
live.
which one you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but again, there's like those albums out there that to me are like, unless you were at the show, like I don't really know that it's bringing too much more to his live repertoire, right?
Yeah.
I think we can both agree that there was a certain point where those albums were definitely no longer essential.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
shortly after that album, so I think he lost his way. He lost his way.
Well, yeah. I mean, and it's also
Trevor
him
said it.
losing his way.
Yeah, Trevor got
Do
it.
it.
Agartha.
Yes.
Agartha. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the one I was talking about. Maybe that's the song name of Zimbabwe on there or something like that. I don't know. Yes. Yeah, Trevor. Thank you.
But another record that is, I'm sorry, did you have some?
No, I mean, I think I would like to maybe talk about that album a little bit more. I think that's, I think we should maybe talk about Miles Davis at some point. And again,
Okay.
this is how the organic show ideas come about.
Well, where would you put that in your? Let's do this. Where would you put that in your Miles Davis? Would you make that top 5 Miles Davis?
Who? Put me on the spot, Steve. Put me on the spot.
We're gonna do it. Okay. You're gonna do it.
So I think Kind of Blue is number one. Just for the sake that like I could say to people that I don't know, this is a good record and I think you'll enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I feel like that's sort of the thing. Now I haven't listened to Miles Davis. I mean, quite frequently. Like you said, it's that once a year kind of album. So maybe this will spur that on. Number 2, I'm gonna say In a Silent Way, another album that's like, you don't really know much about jazz or whatever, but here's an album, but here's Electric Miles, right? So if you like Kind of Blue, then it's like that's a good one too. So then you can kind of
spoiler alert. That's my favorite Miles Davis record.
Okay, which it's. I mean, it's a perfect record. I mean,
it's a safe choice. Yeah, all 2 songs of it.
Yeah,
exactly. It's a safe choice, but it's the one I like the most, and the one I revisit the most. So
yeah, and I think you can sort of put those in, people's hands and say, and they'll enjoy it, and they'll be like, oh, this is fun. And then really, with those 2 points, you can kind of say like, okay, well, do you want to listen to like, Sketches from Spain, or do you want to listen to sort of like, that's where you sort of, from those 2, I think that you can go either way. So like for the, the acoustic Miles, if you will, I'd probably say that's a tough one. I don't know what the next one I would say for acoustic Miles. I can't think of it off the top of my head what I would suggest. But for Electric Miles, I'd maybe say like check out Live Evil, right? Or Evil Live, whatever you want to call it. Live Evil, it's Live Evil, and it's Evil Live for the Misfits.
The Misfits,
right? So
both good live records. So there's no real wrong answer.
So then I would go there, and then of course you can just keep going down the electric rabbit hole. So I don't know. Yeah, but I think that I mean Porgy and Bess is great. I think that it's all a matter of taste. It's all a matter of taste.
I would take Birth of the Cool if you're going to go that era.
Yeah, but to me that's almost like a third kind of, it doesn't, because all those prestige ones like the Walkin', Cookin', Bacon, Changing Tire with Miles Davis Quintet, quartet, those are all great albums. But I mean, they're, if you look at the session notes on those, it was like he went in and it was like he recorded an album, and it was like in an 8-hour session, and then he did another one like Walkin', Movin'. All those are good. Are you familiar with those? What are your thoughts on those?
I am and familiar with Walkin' and all that. A lot of those records, to be honest,
working,
sweating,
sweating to the oldies.
Making love,
all
this, that's that one actually has Paul Stanley on it. Did you know that?
Really?
No, I'm making this up, but
all right.
those are the Waka Waka Waka. I'll be here all week, folks. Those, they're a lot of those records kind of bleed in with each other. Like there's really no, I would say those are good records, but I don't think they're standouts.
Okay.
It's kind of, if you put on Kind of Blue, you're going to know instantly that it's Kind of Blue. If you put on, Walkin' versus, I don't know, what other kind of hard bop albums can we pick out of that? Like a Porgy and Bess. Like to me, there's not that much of a difference between those two. It was only till you got to like ESP or Miles Smiles or something like that, where you could really, really kind of start to see that transition period there. Yeah. But those are good. Again, those are good records. I'm certainly not disparaging them. But if I was going to put down an essential top 5 into something I just jotted down, In a Silent Way, Kind of Blue, Tribute to Jack Johnson. I'm going to say Bitches Brew. And then I'm going to throw one kind of out there. You got it.
Yeah. Well,
just because I'm such a big mark for Chick Corea,
yeah.
and that's got Chick Corea all over it. Because I'm a huge Return to Forever fan, so Miles in the Sky just kind of, you know, is Sketches of Spain a better record per se than Miles in the Sky? I mean, certainly it's subjective, but I personally really enjoy Miles in the Sky, so that's kind of my dark horse in that mix.
But I think too, it's his catalog is so diverse that you can really sort of pick different kind of eras, and if you want to listen, if you're in a certain mood, you can say like even like, hey, here's the ones that are like at Carnegie Hall and things like that. Like I want to listen to that kind of stuff. Like you can listen to those types of albums. So just want to read the comments. Trevor said they think the Prestige albums for Miles are a great start, and really that was sort of the run up to the Columbia stuff. So really all those albums were bang 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 bang, and then kind of Blue came out. So yeah, I think they're good, and I think they're I think they're often cast to the side because they kind of seem a little rushed because they all kind of came out real quick just to sort of clear off that that the contractual obligations. But again, I think they're great. I mean, I probably have listened to some of those more than I've listened to, say, for instance, something like Miles in the Sky or even like Water Babies. You know what I mean? Like I have all that stuff, but it's just like I don't really particularly listen to it that much. Like Big Fun is another one, like or even
that's a good one. Yeah,
what's is it the Fillmore one that they do? There's a live at the Fillmore that's like at the same time as the On the Corner. Let me look it up.
hey, I'm pretty sure because there's a marquee shot where it's like Neil Young, and then on Friday, then Saturday is Miles Davis, then Sunday is Steve Miller.
Yeah.
And I think that's right around the same
that
time.
one. There's the
Yeah.
Miles at the Fillmore, that one, which I think that's the one. I believe that's the one that they play with. He played with Grateful Dead. That was like the April of whatever that was, 71
71, I think, or 70.
70.
71.
No, I think it was 70. April of 70. Yeah, that's what it was. April 9th of 70. But yeah, there's another one too that's a live one, and I don't know what. I can picture the cover. It's like the same On the Corner art, and it's like a double album. But yeah, I think that again, he's one of those artists. There's a reason why he's so critically acclaimed, is just because there's so many different things that you can look at from his career. So yeah, Oldies Radio said, "What about Witches Brew?" Not actually saying the title. So
I wasn't gonna say bitches because this is a family friendly show, but there it is, Bitches Brew. Bitches Brew.
It's, to me, it's always been a tough album. I have it. Listen to it. I have that the box set with it. The bass player guy was that famous session musician who played with Dylan quite a bit. I can't remember what his name is offhand. He played on like Highway 61 and things like that. But it's there's some there's only a couple of tracks, but there's some great tracks on it. Not one that I necessarily pull out too often.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I
see. I would.
On the Corner is my go-to. That's when I
is it really? Okay. Yeah, because I was going to say if for whatever reason you were like, hey, guess which one I listen to the most, I would always go to that. On the Corner would be a good second, but wow, that surprised me. That's not your go-to.
Yeah, I mean, I like it, but I think it came just the sort of the order that I got those Miles Davis ones. Like some of those other ones I listened to the crap out of, and it was like, oh, hey, here's just another one, and then I just sort of like just never really gave it the attention that it needed. So, and then just listening to it in sort of the box set, like not like, okay, here's the proper album. I listened to it just as the box set. I think I got that before I actually got it on just like regular CD. So I know that's redundant, but I do have both versions. So, yeah. Trevor says Black Beauty is when he opened up for the Dead. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Billy
Madison.
Yeah. All I know is if peeing your pants is cool, consider me Miles Davis.
That was on the other day. I've never owned that movie on any format, but I've seen it on TV a gajillion times. You bigger Happy Gilmore fan or bigger Billy Madison fan?
I'm not really an Adam Sandler fan.
Well, nobody is, but those two are good movies. At least Happy Gilmore, right? That's a good one.
The funny thing is, and we can throw this out to our friends here in chat. in this this is no way sponsored in any ways, but have you Steve, I know you and I talked about this morning, but the Diablo Dare sandwich, I was watching some it's a sandwich that's at Arby's that is like a chipotle bun, there's roasted jalapenos on it,
Paprika and everything, like
yeah,
all this
there's like 5
habaneros.
different ghost pepper something or other, ghost pepper cheese, and somebody referred to it as the as the little Nicky Dare, where it was like, this isn't like, and I'm like, what? That's the weirdest. Somebody, eating it in their car, which I guess is a thing. Like a lot of this is what people do.
Oh yeah. Oh
I
no,
had no idea.
no. There's a lot of people on YouTube who will go and get whatever the new sandwich fad is or fast food thing is, and they'll sit in their car and you're basically watching
Somebody
big dude eat. Yeah, and they're like,
food.
oh, it's this taco tastes, really kind of, it's like what? And so that's, hey,
So
different strokes. Here's two guys talking about Miles Davis in 1970. So there's,
right.
as this next guy, Frank Zappa said, there's no accounting to taste. Ooh, how do you like that transition?
Oh man, you
So,
were on the corner, and like that's some good stuff right there. That's an album I haven't listened to in a long time.
So Mom was.
You were in another
Well,
dimension this week. Last week.
It's been a very odd last week. So it was yes.
Show it so
we'll
the people
leave it
can
at
show
that,
it.
right?
Yeah. Hold it so you can show the people. There you go. Lumpy gravy.
Lumpy gravy.
So your thoughts on lumpy gravy?
So
has it gotten better since the last time you listened to it?
No.
Okay.
But I don't mind this record. Record.
Yeah.
This is on like the lower, especially with Zappa's, I don't know, his early period per se, the stuff with his mothers. Yeah. Boy, technical difficulties. It's on the lower end of my Zappa listening habits.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not bad. I mean, is it really a record? More so than
move your thing over. You're off the screen now. There you go. To your right. There you go.
Better.
Fantastic. Yeah, you're good.
So yeah, it's not bad.
Do you put
like
on
I said,
lumpy
it's one
gravy
that
on Uncle Meat? Ask Oldie Radio. You do it in 200 motels.
You know what? I almost brought that one
free.
too. Yes,
because we're only in it for the money.
So yeah, has it gotten better since I've listened to it? No, but I'm not the biggest fan of like those trio of records, like Lumpy Gravy, Uncle Meat, 200 Motels. Like, and I know that like for Zappa purists, that's a pretty big trilogy of records. But it's okay. There's just something about, I don't know, like I'll take Weasels Rip My Flesh over something like that. Just
rats.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lumpy Gravy. Yeah, it's okay. It had been a long time since I listened to it. And I put it on.
It's been a seriously long time since I've played that one, so I'm gonna need to bust that out. I know we talked about Zappa, like what was that, the first or second show that we did. So
I think we sneak in Zappa as often as they make Kiss references. So but is Zappa. I mean, obviously, there's a huge, just like Miles Davis, there's a huge catalog to digest, right? And there's different periods and whatnot. But as far as the mothers go, unless we're talking about the mothers of prevention, I'll usually leave that one kind of on the wayside a little bit. I'm not hating on the record a lot. I think it's got some fun ideas. I think the first side is head and shoulders better than the second side, but it's a tough undertaking to sit there in one sitting and digest all of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so. I'm gonna bust that one out. It's been a while since I listened to that one. So what else you got?
All right, last but certainly not least, this is from a label called Reel to Reel, and you probably guessed it. They start grabbing stuff that is unreleased, and they've kind of unearthed and whatnot. And the artist, the name of the album is Understanding. The artist is Roy Brooks.
Oh, okay.
This was recorded in Baltimore, November 1st, 1970. Yes. Go ahead.
Who did someone just release that? Is this like?
Yes.
Okay.
This just came out last year, 2021.
Okay.
Um,
But I feel like maybe somebody released that on vinyl recently.
it was a record store day exclusive on
Okay.
vinyl that you
Okay.
could get. I opted for the CD just because it's more economical, and
Fiscally
um,
responsible.
there you go. As a husband and father, you got to be mindful of these things, right?
Right.
And not only that, but you've got songs that the shortest song is the introduction, which is 26 seconds, and then after that, it's 21 minutes, 20 minutes, 21 minutes, 23 minutes, 32 minutes. So yeah, this is kind of like the Grateful Dead live on vinyl. You've been getting up a lot, flipping records and whatnot, but this is really great. This is not, even though it was released and recorded in 1970. Or excuse me, not released in 1970, but recorded in 1970. It's more of traditional jazz. It's not necessarily something like what we've talked about with Miles Davis and some of that later jazz that was kind of experimental or added a guitar player or whatnot. This is a lot easier on the ears. And if you're really into kind of traditional jazz with a slight edge to it, this is definitely for you. This is a great record. This is my favorite jazz release of last year. So
Okay.
if that accounts for anything, this album I think is darn near perfect. The band is hot. Roy Shaw, Carlos Garrett, or Garnett, excuse me, Harold McBee and Cecil, or excuse me, I can't read tonight. Harold McByrne and Cecil McBee all play on it, and it's really great. Like I said, it is one that I cannot suggest enough. So
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm racking my brains here because I just saw that record that I feel like somebody either had a sale on it or, yeah, I'm gonna have to. That's another one I'm gonna have to dig around for and take a look because I feel like somebody had like maybe it was something where it was getting reissued. Like maybe I was like a record store day first one, you know what I mean? And then they reissued it or something like that. But I saw that, which reminds me, before I forget, there is a handful of things that I saw that are coming out that are definitely, I know, up our alley, so to speak. Um,
okay.
did you see that they're finally doing the 2 disc for Terror Twilight for Pavement?
No.
It's coming out, so it's not out yet. So they're doing like a vinyl box with it, like a 4 LP thing, and then
Ooh,
they're also
we
finally
okay.
doing the 2 CD. So I know you're a Pavement fan, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to that as well too. So, but I saw that was coming out, and then Light in the Attic was releasing uh, like non-album singles, I think, for the Beau Brummels. I know we talked about that box set the other day.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they're also doing it for there was a second band. I forget who it was. The Neon Philharmonic, which what was the song that they did? I forget. They had like one hit. Neon Rainbow? Yeah. That it? I think so.
Okay.
But yeah, so those are coming out too. I just saw those the other day. So
Are there any kind of street dates for those, or are those just kind of
here I can look it up right now for you. The Beau Brummels one, that's on Light in the Attic. I know I said that. Department of Redundancy Department. That's April 1st that's coming out. It's hard to believe we're already looking at that stuff. And then the Pavement one, which man oh man, when I saw that, I was like,
yeah, that's you definitely got my attention with that.
because they released all the other ones like Slanted and Enchanted and
Mm,
Crooked Rain and all that,
Crooked
but
Rain, yeah.
um, those have been out for ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's April 8th. Yep. Uh, so we'll have to talk about Pavement too, because I know that they're um, they're a band that we should talk about. So add them to the list of things to
And
talk
guided by voices.
about. Which you're gonna have to help me out on that one because I'm pretty clueless on
Oh,
that.
they're
Yeah,
both. I mean, they're both right around that same time period, so we can intertwine them. We can do like a '90s alt rock
there you go.
special.
90s alt rock special. I like it. So what else you got? Is
I
that
mean,
it? That's it.
That's it. Oh, and it's been Spirit. So, but that's for another
Yeah.
time.
Oldies Radio said Morning Girl was what it was. Neon Philharmonic Morning Girl. I was saying neon. Was that what did I say? I don't remember what I said. Anyhow,
I don't know. I that song's not ringing a bell right now.
okay. Yeah, it was like a sort of one of those like pop psych kind of things, and that was like their only hit. Um,
Okay.
maybe it's on the album called Neon Rainbow, What am I? Maybe oldies radio. Help me out. What am I thinking here? Um,
Hmm.
Anyhow, I just wanted to show two things, and one of them is going to kind of lead us into our conversation for the remainder of the evening. But this, Steve, I know we talked about this, but we got Bears Sonic Journals. This is Johnny Cash at the Carousel Ballroom, April 24th, 1968. So I thought that this was recorded before the Folsom show, the Folsom Prison show, but that was actually
Mhm.
recorded in January of '68 and then released like May 6th or something like that of '68. So he kind of talks about the album. Hey, this is on the album coming out. Um, so you and I really took a deep dive on this last night, and I took the creative liberties. So if you're going to buy this, and which I would suggest if you like Johnny Cash, and we can kind of maybe get into this a little bit. You were like, I think you like Johnny Cash more than I like Johnny Cash.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
I like Johnny Cash, but you're definitely the bigger fan.
I see. In the funny thing is like, and I don't want to be like I was listening to Johnny Cash. Like I was listening to Johnny Cash before Walk the Line came out, right? And in his records were records you could get for $1 in the record store. I got like maybe 3 copies of Folsom Prison, and they're pristine, right? And I have a sealed one. I found a sealed copy.
Oh
That one
wow.
in San Quentin. Yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, I was a big Johnny Cash fan. I liked all of his American recordings when those were The Man Comes Around. I bought that out, the day that it
Oh
came
yeah.
out in the store. So yeah, I enjoy his stuff, and like I said, I pretty much got all of his catalog because you could just find those records. They were so cheap back in the day. I probably have maybe 20 or 30 at least on vinyl that I paid no more than $1 for. Um, this is a little challenging, and I think it's just the way that it's mixed. Um, Sort of what I described to you is that so Johnny is a little really it's just basically there's it's there's just a channel recording. So you have
Mhm.
guitar and bass and drums in one channel, and then you have Johnny Cash and um, acoustic on the other side. And the problem is he's up front in the mix, so it's higher. So you're listening to it and you kind of like you feel like your head tilting because it's like louder in one ear than the other. So as I showed you last night, I mixed it down to mono and it just sounds perfect. So yeah, I don't think there's so if you buy this, just be careful. If you look at some of the reviews on Amazon, people will say like it's terrible. Again, it's a historical document, so we have to think about that. There's not much in the way of official Johnny Cash releases from this time. So I think the historical importance kind of weighs out. And they put it in this like really cool sort of like paperback, hardback book, and like just the illustrations and stuff like that in here are just fantastic. So,
Yeah,
um,
that's worth it alone almost.
but it's it's the show that you're kind of he's still kind of doing the Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison kind of that sort of thing. Towards the end, people were sort of like yelling out songs and June
Like
Carter.
Freebird.
They're not yelling Freebird because I don't think that was released yet in 1968. It was still a couple of years ahead. Um,
Yeah. I'm bombing with the jokes tonight. I'll put those to bed. I promise.
but and June's like she was like really impressed that like people know sort of what they're what the these hippies, right? It's the Carousel Ballroom, so who is going to be there, in San Francisco. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it if you have the ability. Audacity is free on the internet, so you can even download it and you know just go ahead and mix it down to mono and it sounds fine. So it's a nice little thing. The other record that I've been listening to, CD and record, um, and this leads us into our conversation, is Iggy Pop Post Pop Depression. This came out in 2016. Steve, tell me what you know about this album.
I have listened to it once.
Okay.
I am a fan of Queen of the Stone Age, Queen of the Stone Age, rather.
Mm-hmm.
But I probably should revisit that again.
Okay.
I liked it. And it's not like I listened to it once. It was like, this is not for me. It's good. It's just I have not circled back around to hearing it again. So,
Well, it's it's a little different. I think for 2016, it sort of fit perfectly.
Mhm.
Like just sort of the the tone of it, I guess I would say. But you're right, it's the guys from the Queen of the Stone Age, so it's sort of it's a heavier rocking kind of thing, and like Iggy is like way in tune on this too. So like there's we might talk about the weirdness tonight. Are we going to talk about the weirdness tonight? I brought it
I
if you
wasn't
want to.
planning.
Okay,
Go for it.
we
Go
can
for
talk
it.
about it a little bit. So
I I've done up through the. Well, you've seen it, so there you go.
I brought some fun things just to show, just so we can punctuate the good
Pat
stuff.
out the running time, baby.
But that album was like that album fell flat in my opinion. It just nothing really happened, and this was like just a surprise, like because his albums can be tough. His albums can be, um, I know I've sent you the link to the Butttown one that he did. Like it's whatever that was, 1994, I think, five, something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
so
the less said, the better.
yeah, so he definitely has lost his direction sometimes throughout his career, but it's cool, and it's sort of
Yeah.
there's sort of like that the David Bowie sort of Berlin era sort of um, yeah, kind of like harmonies that he's able to pull off on a couple of songs, especially on that the Break Into Your Heart. Um, yeah, you should revisit this. I highly recommend that you revisit it. It was one of my favorite records for 2016. So
Okay.
that's it.
Right on.
So since we're speaking of Iggy Pop, Steve,
That's it.
take us away.
All right. So we are going. This is going to be what I plan on covering, just to kind of give everybody a heads up, so you can play along at home. Would be kind of talking about. This is not going to be necessarily a deep. Well, the heck with it. Everybody, just strap in,
Steve,
grab
there's
your.
three records. We can't really go too deep with the we.
Oh, contraire, kind sir, you haven't seen the spirit book I've been writing. Yes, we sure can. So anyway,
Right. No,
um,
I have a pretty decent stack of records here sitting beside me.
all
So
right. So Iggy saw Ron Aston perform with a cover band, The Chosen Few. Iggy was known around town as playing drums, and of course, the Iguanas. Have you heard their?
yes, and I have that record. And I forgot to. That's the one that I forgot. The one that got away. I have a compilation. Are you familiar with the highs in the mid '60s compilations?
I am not, but
Okay.
Mojo Magazine, which we eventually need to do an episode on Mojo,
Right.
they had one called Instant Garage,
Okay.
and they had the MC5, the NAS. What else is on there? Just like the Bush is on there,
Hmm.
and that song by the Iguanas is on there, and so yes, I am familiar with that song. What is it?
It's like
Like
it has like a saxophone in it. Like it's yeah, like
yeah.
it and it's like
I think
like
Iggy
pound.
plays drums
But
and
and he
sings,
plays
if I'm
drums.
not.
Yeah, it's like really like pounding kind of tribal
Yeah.
drums. But yeah,
Right.
one of the highs in the mid '60s compilations, they did. I believe they did both the A and the B side that they released, and then his thing is on the front. I will bring it next week. It was one of the like when I'm scrambling at like 8:30 to pull records, and then I'm like, yeah, that was the one I forgot. But I did bring some other things that I would have forgotten had I not thought of them. So. But yeah, so Iggy's playing with that band. He meets Ron Ashton, and then they kind of say like, "Hey, let's do it," right?
Yeah. And so they form, and of course, they've got Scott Ashton on drums and David Alexander on bass. But Pop attributes two key motivating influences moving the band forward. He says the first one was seeing the Doors perform at the homecoming dance at the University of Michigan, which
Oh
can you
wow,
imagine?
wow, that's crazy.
And then the second would be seeing an all girls rock band from Princeton, New Jersey called the Untouchables perform.
Okay.
So, which is, you think about it, you've got an all girls rock band from the 1960s. So, they're probably pretty rocking.
Hmm.
Okay. And you've got the Doors, and that's probably, you've got that early rock and roll meets Jim Morrison. And that's pretty much probably the best description of the Stooges that I think I can kind of
Yeah.
come up with,
Well,
you know?
yeah, and and Iggy really, he kind of, I feel like all those Electra records, in we if we talk about Clear Light and um, you know even Love. I mean, all those bands sort of did kind of sound they were unique in their own ways, but they
Mhm.
did sort of have that like little bond that was kind of close together. Like you could even say like with the MC5 and the Doors, like you have that sort of off the rails sort of like anything could happen sort of thing, you know what I mean? And you had, you know, you think about Arthur Lee and Love, like that Jack Holzman didn't get people that were easy to deal with, right? Like you got the loose cannons on Electra, right? You did. You got these personalities,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And then when the '70s rolled around, it was like, okay, everybody sort of mellowed out, and you got Carly Simon, and you got David Gates and Bread, and then you know, okay, and then that's when the but like that really raw period 1966 67 68 there was some crazy stuff going on at Electra. Like they were
Some
taking
of the
some
best
serious,
records of all time.
yeah, they were taking some serious chances, and you know, there some duds, yeah, but there was other stuff that was just like
Oh
amazing
yeah, but
records.
I think the gold that they produced far outweighs the duds.
Yeah,
I think, you know, for every dud you got 4 or 5, you know, just amazing albums. So,
yeah.
you know, you would be in the Hall of Fame with those kind of stats.
Well, and you think about too, like that time period for what was like you look at the major, like you look at the Warners, you look at the Atlantics, like okay, so obviously they all merged there, you know, towards the early '70s. But like you think
Yeah, but
about
those were all safe. Those were all
yeah,
safe labels. You
right,
know, they
right,
weren't going to put out, you know, something as controversial as Kick Out the Jams. You know,
right.
they don't want that heat or anything like that. Electro, on the other hand, you know, think about with Jim Morrison, and you know, you've got Rob Tyner and
Hmm.
you know, John Sinclair and things like that. Yeah, you know, they took all that, and they took it in stride. You know, I think Jack Holtzman kind of looked at, you know, yeah, I've got dealing with these loose cannons, but you know, they're doing something that's going to matter. You know, they're
Right.
going to do
Well,
something
the music,
that
the music is authentic, and I think we've said
sure,
that. That is the when we distill the MC5 down and the Doors down, the Doors down. When we distill the Doors down, uh, yeah, that's you know, you get authentic music. Like these guys were willing to take chances, and they were really willing to say like, yeah, you know what, this might not be what you want, but guess what, you don't get it, right? You don't
yeah.
understand. It's that good. You don't understand. You know, you don't, and you know, take that with whatever
In
you want.
in 50 years, your kids are going to love it.
Right. But
So, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, cause just go ahead and Oldies Radio wanted to say, fun fact: the day Iggy threw the peanut butter was River Cuomo's birthday from Weezer.
Did
So
not know that.
what is that? Is that in Cleveland? Is that the Cleveland Pop Festival or
Yeah,
whatever?
in
Yeah,
1970.
yeah. There you go.
Yeah, there's some footage of that exists that's
Yeah,
floating around on YouTube and whatnot.
yeah.
So, all right, and 67, the on Halloween night is when the band debuts. So, and you've got the Stooges, who of course originally billed as the Psychedelic Stooges. They weren't necessarily the house band at the Grandy Ballroom. That, of course, went to the MC5,
Right.
but the two of them played a lot of shows together.
Hmm.
Um, so much so to the fact that early Grandy Ballroom performances, Ashton's guitar broke when they were playing with the MC5, forcing the band to stop playing during their opening song, "I Want to Be Your Dog." so,
That's great.
so in a show that the MC5 or excuse me, the first major commercial show for the Psychedelic Stooges, as they were known at the time, was March the 3rd of 1968, and it was the Grandy Ballroom in Detroit. Do you know who they were opening for?
Oh man. Um,
If you'll get this, you'll win $1 million Steve bucks.
um, was it the Grateful Dead? No, no.
No, but that would rule.
Yeah. Well, they played
Blood,
their
Sweat, and Tears.
blood. Oh, that's right. Yes, I. You know, and you told me that. You sent me an email that you had that on there, and that would have been the Al Cooper Blood, Sweat, and Tears too,
It was. It was.
which is you know, I think funny. And you said, okay, so the reason why the MC5 didn't want to open that show or didn't want to do that show was because they thought that Blood, Sweat, and Tears were better than them, or Blood, Sweat, and Tears didn't want to have the
Blood,
MC5.
Sweat, and Tears didn't want they were hesitant following the MC5. You know,
Okay, okay,
the MC5 had a huge
right,
reputation of not bullying bands, but good good ribbing of other bands, and just would, if they were playing with, like they did this to Cream and things like that, when they had a big band come into town, the MC5 would just bring it that much more,
right?
And would blow the headliner off the stage to the point where a lot of them were saying, "No, get us somebody else. We don't want to play with those guys." And they would come up with a variety of excuses, and so that's kind of where the Stooges do fit in there. It's kind of like, all right, you don't want to play. Well, here's the baby brother band, the Stooges.
Well, I think too that and I don't know if you're going to mention this or not, but I feel that didn't Ron Ashton reach out to like Mo Howard, or was it Larry, I think, and he was like, "Hey, we have this band, and do you mind if we call it, the Psychedelic Stooges?" And he was just like, "Yeah, just don't call it the Stooges." Like there's a little quip about that.
I don't know about
look
that.
at that. Like he was like he had like Mo's blessing or something like that. It was either Mo or Larry. I can't remember who it was, but it was like it was just like, "Yeah, don't bother me, kid. Like don't just don't call it the Stooges, and I won't sue you for copyright infringement." Which now look at them, right? It's like, you type in Stooges. Even when I went to Google search for the thing for the image here, I was like, the Stooges, and it was like, okay, you got like 75% Three Stooges and like 25% the other Stooges. So yeah, fun stuff.
So in 1968, Electra Records sent Danny Fields to scout out the MC5. And they were playing at the Grandy Ballroom. He saw the MC5 and the Stooges open for them. He was blown away by both of the bands. And wanted to, it encouraged Electra Records to sign them both. And they said that they would pay the MC5, their signing would be $20,000. And they said, offer the Stooges $5,000 and see if they'll take that. And they did. So for $25,000 in 1968 dollars, I realized that you got two of the greatest bands of all time to sign a contract with your company.
That's awesome.
And
there's a great documentary that was on Netflix for a while. Still might be on there. Have you seen this? The Danny
Gimme
Says?
Danger?
No, Danny Says. There's one.
I have that in my queue. I have not watched it yet.
So it's all about Danny Fields, and it's all about his sort of, because he was sort of in with sort of I think the Velvets as well too. There was like that sort of thing. Like he was definitely somebody.
The Ramones,
the Ramones, exactly. Yeah, there was a lot of like in the right place at the right time kind of thing. I think it was like he was really good friends with Nico. I think maybe that's what it was. And then he was like in Hollywood, and then he got kind of being an A&R guy for for Electra. But yeah, Danny Says is definitely one to take a look at that. And I think from that, if I remember correctly, in that one, he was on the phone with Jack, and he's like, "Yeah, hey, I just saw the MC5. Like, we got to sign these guys." And like Jack was like, "Okay, give him $20,000." And he was like, "Okay, we got this other band too. They're like their little brother band." He's like, sign them for $5,000. So like, and of course, like, they're like, "Oh, $5,000, right?" Like they've never seen,
we can eat. This is great.
$60 at the same, at the same place at the same time. But and then like, didn't Iggy Pop was like, I think he got hooked up with like Nico for a little bit too, didn't he? Wasn't it like she was hanging around at that time too? I think.
Did they have a relationship? Is that kind of, they were kind of seeing each other, so to speak?
Yeah, like I think it was a real deal thing. Hey, Craig signed on. Hey, Craig, very
what
late
up,
to the
Craig?
party. Hey guys, I'll put your attendance here in the register. Make sure that you're accounted for. Thanks for stopping by. Say's coming late. Did you guys talk about the MC5? A true testimonial? No, we didn't talk about that. We're talking about the Stooges.
I have a fun. Well,
yeah, but that's a great
documentary
though. That's a great documentary to check out. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so we're like what? We're about to. This is like so early. Was that March of '69?
This is we're moving to the first record now.
Okay.
So of course John Cale, everybody knows from the Vets, produced it. For the first album, the Stooges had intended to record 7 songs: Asthma Attack, I'm Sick, Dance of the Romance, Goodbye Bozos, No Fun, I Want to Be Your Dog in 1969. As far as I know, Asthma Attack was released last year. They did a big anniversary edition
Okay.
of the Stooges. The first record. I don't know if they put it out on physical copies, but it is available on streaming services. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. The I'm Sick, Dance of the Romance, and Goodbye Bozos. I couldn't find any of those.
Okay.
But Asthma Attack is on that officially released set.
Okay.
It's an avant-garde thing. It gives you an idea of what they were doing kind of at the Grandy.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing I can describe it to is maybe a splash of what Coltrane was doing shortly before he died, and maybe Starship by the MC5. It's very avant-garde, and there's a fine line between noise and avant-garde, and this kind of walks a tightrope. Yeah. I would say so. It's interesting to hear what they were doing, but it's not so far off as what they would do on the next record with Funhouse, with like LA Blues and the title cut and whatnot. So it's interesting.
A couple of things about that first album. So there is, I think I had written down in July of '69 they released "I Want to Be Your Dog" in 1969 as a single. So those come out, and then August 5th is when that Stooges album came out. So really, it was only out for like a month, the single, before they put the album out. And then there's a couple things. So that John Cale, that first mix. That was rejected, that's been re-released a couple different ways. There's a 2-disc CD of the first album,
right,
and then you have the regular mix, and then you also have the John Cale mix. I can't really remember what the difference is between the two. Do you know offhand? Are you familiar with those?
I am. It's a lot like the Closet mix on the third Velvet's album. There's subtle differences, but there's not really. It's not a drastic. It's not like the Bowie mix versus the pop mix of Raw Power.
Right. There's that one too.
right. So there to me, I don't hear that much drastic of a difference between the two.
It's been a while since I've listened to it, so I don't really remember what the big difference was. And I think even there was I want to say like Vinyl Me or whatever that it's like a subscription service. They have since released that on vinyl, that second.
Yeah, they did that last year. Yeah,
last year. Okay,
exactly.
Yeah. So let's see. Do you got your copy handy there, Steve?
I do not. It is in the other room. So
under the Eth for Stooges. Oh, and this is, hold on a second. This came out for Record Store Day. This is the Third Man edition, which was limited to 8,000 copies of that, which I think they only sold like 4,000 to begin with of the original album, I think, something like that. But yeah, I got this. There was a cool little thing. I don't know if you knew this or not, but there's some of the Record Store Day stuff had these like, they're like, you're lucky there was a fortune inside. Have you ever seen this? This is the only record that I've ever had. Yeah, and then there's like
what is it?
Yeah, there was, so like I opened the record because I was like, okay, there's there were cash prizes, the possibility for cash prizes. You could
is it a secret vacation for two, Daddy?
And then there was like this ticket in there. Always watch for the Song and Dance Man. I believe that's a Bob Dylan lyric, right? And then recordstorecrawl.com, and I had to enter this code in, and I don't remember what I won or what I didn't win. Must enter by 5/5/6/18. That's funny, and I'll tell you offline why that date's funny. But yeah, so this had the alternate vocal 1969. I Want to Be Your Dog. Alternative vocal, The Real Cool Time John Cale mix, We Will Fall alternative mix, No Fun full version, and full version Not Right alternative vocal, and Little Doll take 5. So yeah,
very cool.
So that was a fun thing that came out recently that I wanted to show. So what do you got next?
All right. So Iggy Pop recalls that we auditioned the 7-version song of the album live in the studio, and Jack Holzman refused it, saying that there aren't enough legitimate songs to contain a structured lead vocal. So he says you got to have more proper songs.
Okay.
Upon hearing this, Holtzman indicated that they had 1 week to prepare an album to be mixed and ready for John Cale to add the final touches on. So I guess this band works great under pressure because those are some fantastic songs they pulled out of the sky.
Yeah. And I always like how Iggy always talks about there was some TV show that he used to watch, and he would, I forget, they would say like, say something in like 25 words or less. And so that's where he got his songwriting thing, where it's like you have to say it in 25 words. So if you think of a song like, I Want to Be Your Dog, like how many words are in that entire
or No Fun?
Yeah, right, exactly. There's not too many. Hey, Craig says he got vinyl pressings of the self-titled and Funhouse Sundays for Raw Power. For my 2 cents labels, or was that, I don't know how you're saying that, for 2 cents. That's never got a bad pressing from. Yeah, I think that, I've had some of the reissues too over time, and, upgraded to, an 80s copy of the first one. I think that, yeah, Sundays did a really good job on all of that stuff. And man, what they used to release years ago, and you look at the prices now,
Yeah.
You're like, what happened? So, yeah, that's crazy. So hey, we're in August of '69, and then really there's not much until July 7th of '70, right?
Right.
which is which Funhouse is released. So one of my favorite stories about Funhouse, I think I told you this. I told this in one of the ones a long time ago, but I'll put it on this record since we're talking about the Stooges. Was that flea market that had a $50 copy of Funhouse? This was like probably 2000, 2001, sometime around in there, and I was just like, "What is that record? $50? Oh man, that's crazy." Had no idea what that record is, but if if we could go to that flea market today, I would gladly pay you $50 for that original pressing. No
what
question.
else do you have?
What else do you have? Right? Are there any more of these, sir?
Yeah.
Kind sir.
Yeah. Funny story about the Funhouse, real quick. When I met Henry Rollins, he's always said that that's like his favorite record.
Right.
I always have bad luck. Well, not bad luck. I always have odd luck, if that makes any sense. Sometimes meeting these guys, because usually the guy in front of me is kind of jerky, to put it nicely.
Okay.
So like the guy in front of me asked Henry Rollins if he'd sign a pack of cigarettes.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, do you have anything else? He's like, this is all I got. So he's like, all right. And so he was already kind of, Henry Rollins is not like the most approachable guy to begin with.
Yeah.
So he was already kind of in a foul mood.
Right.
But I had him sign something for me, and I talked and I said, hey, what's your favorite song on Funhouse? I know that's your fun record. He kind of perked up a little bit, and he goes, if I had to guess, I'd say Down on the Street. You can't beat that pocket. And he starts going, the dun 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 dun. I was like, yeah, I know it. He says that would probably be it. And he kind of perked up when we talked about the Stooges for a second. So I think, learn your artist's favorite records and then kind of, schmooze them with that a little bit. So, all right. So the album was recorded at Electra Sound Records in Los Angeles, California, from May 11th to the 25th in 1970. And so
it was Don Galucci, right? Who he's the keyboard player for the Kinks, or I'm sorry, the Kingsmen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Louis. Remember that, folks at home. We'll save
if you're
that
playing at home.
We'll say that tidbit will be important later on.
And if you can name the FBI agent that was interviewing him with the supposed lyrics in that, you'll get bonus points. Galucci's plan as a producer each day was record about a dozen takes of a particular song, pick the best one that would appear on the album. So, All right, that's the best. That's the best take of the song, guys. Stop. So Gallucci stripped the entire studio of gear to emulate their live performance as close as possible. Because Iggy's biggest complaint was that the studio felt too much like a studio. He wanted the album to sound more live and raw, like they're like a live show, and I think they definitely got that. Another funny note about this record: the Stooges wanted "Loose" to be the opening track, but Electra felt that "Down on the Street" would be a stronger opener. And you're not going to hear me say this often, but I unequivocally agree with it with the label at this point.
Yeah.
Again, you cannot, as it's been said before, "Down on the Street" is just about the perfect opener that you can get. That again, that pocket is just amazing.
Yeah. This is just a fantastic record. I think that I think I think it's safe to say that it's probably, I don't know, top 25 for me, no questions.
Oh, I'll go a step further. That's top 5 for me.
Top 5? Okay.
Absolutely. You know those. Oh, if you were on a desert island and you could only bring 5. I mean that would.
You mean the mixtape game that we played last time? Where
we absolutely. But that's top 5 for me of all time. That is about as perfect a record as you can get.
So let's just talk to Chad here for a bit. So Oldies Radio says needs Funhouse and Raw Power. He has the first one.
You're right. You do need those.
Yeah.
You for sure. You need those today. Go get them tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised by what you hear on Funhouse. I'd say the first Stooges album is probably the closest that you're gonna get to like a Velvet Underground record. Like it's pretty close. Like it's close. You know what I mean? Like it has.
Yeah.
It's that kind of like I said, kind of between the, the Doors and the MC5 and all that, where it's like sort of that blending kind of thing. But this album stands out on their own completely. So.
Yeah.
Craig says, if I remember right, I think I discovered Funhouse through an interview with Thurston Moore about 20 years ago. That sounds right. He definitely was another one that would talk about this record all the time. He always talks about that first Ramones record, and he talks about this one too. So, but for 1970, I mean, this album is just, it's.
Well, think about what was on the radio at that time, and here's a band that could not be bothered with singles. They could. You can look at the MC5, and you could say something like "Tonight" or "Shakin' Street" or something like that. Was an attempt at a legitimate single. There's nothing like that on the Stooges, and that's certainly not to disparage the MC5. I'm a bigger MC5 fan than I am a Stooges fan. So with that clarification out of the way, the Stooges, there's nothing that could be considered radio friendly, even remotely radio friendly. To that, but that's another thing. Again, what you and I talked about earlier about Electra just taking those chances on those bands, knowing that this isn't a singles band. This is nothing that we could. We're going to put out singles, but of course, it's not going to get picked up by AM radio or whatnot. But those albums, it was more of an art form than it was just kind of something disposable or bubblegum.
Yeah. So I want to just take a look. Just pause for a second, and let's take a look at the. Let's take a look at the Electra discography. I'm a big fan of the 4000 series. I know on my YouTube channel, if you go back and you look at it, I talk quite a bit about the Electra 4000 series, which is their pop series. There's really in my opinion, there's really no bad records in it whatsoever. There's a lot of really fun and interesting stuff. So let me see. This is let's see. 71. This is 4071. Let's see here. I'm just curious as far as with what was coming out on Electra, like before and after this. You know what I mean?
Craig says, thanks to you, Mark, I've spent years collecting the Electra 4000 series.
Yes, thank you, Craig.
He's a bigger MC5 fan than this. Their albums are more cohesive. I agree. As far as the energy goes, they kick out the jams. I mean, to me, that album is just I mean, that album's a workout. Just listening to that record, it's complete energy. Back in the USA is just such a fun, light rocking record, and then you've got High Time, which is just a combination of both of those records. So yeah, I agree with you, Craig.
Craig, I'm just curious. Like, it's been a while since I've done a Electra 4000 census, but I'm pretty close. I'm pretty close to having them all. There's a couple more that I need, but I'm curious as far as with do you have any gems, or is there any that you're on the hunt for? Um, so the interesting thing, Steve, let's just talk about. I'm gonna talk like maybe like four records before this. So, um, record 4067 was Krabby Appleton. You know, the go
Okay.
back like
Yeah.
power pop, like super power pop
Yeah.
band.
Yeah.
That's a great record. Um, then 4068 was Renaissance, which was so after the Yardbirds broke up. Keith, Ralph, and Jim McCarty started this band called Renaissance, and I think Keith Ralph's sister was singing in it as well too. So that album comes out. That's 1969. David Peel on the Lower East Side, The American Revolution, uh, as 4069. 4070 was Gulliver. So this is the album that has Daryl Hall on it. I showed you that the other day. And then you have, the Stooges Funhouse comes out. And a couple more down from that, we have Lorca by Tim Buckley, Better Times Are Coming by Rhinoceros, and On the Waters by Bread, which I think was their second album. So just to kind of
Was
like
that
give
the
like,
second
yeah,
Rhinoceros record?
that's
Yeah.
because self-titled was their first
Yeah.
one.
Okay. Okay.
So, but that was also July of 70. Bread was August of 70. So yeah, you could see, they were all that kind of stuff was going down. Not soon after you have The Doors 13, which was like their first greatest hits album. You
Yeah.
know which one that was. So, but yeah, so interesting stuff. Carly Simon's debut comes out 4082. Um, so that was maybe like just a handful of records down from this. So wow, we got some chat blowing up here, but I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting to look at it as far as with what was coming out on Electra, and it was like, imagine being like, oh yeah, we got to put what's coming out this week? Oh, the Stooges are coming out this week. Oh, the Stooges. Okay, all right. Like that just seems funny. Mark Neely says Warner's was actually a pretty progressive major label for the time,
Oh, for sure.
signing artists like the Dead and the Fugs. Yeah, they still had their bands that were. I think every band's or every label sort of had that where there was like the one person that they kind of like were like, okay, yeah, this is our sort of niche. And if you look at Vanguard records, especially with like the folk records, you definitely have like say for instance like Electra, who is going to be your Bob Dylan? Oh, we got Phil Oakes, you know what I mean? And Vanguard was like, okay, we got Richard Farina or whatever, you know what I mean? Like everybody tried to take their little piece of the pie, and yeah, I think you're right. You're definitely spot on with that. So um, let's see what else we got here. Craig's, I'm not close to having them at all. I got to look at the list and see where I'm at. May have close to half of them. That Gulliver album is pretty decent. It is. It's not too bad. It's again, it's power pop. So
Nothing
it's
wrong with that at
yeah.
all.
So let's move ahead a little bit. So there was no single that sort of predated the album at all. But in August, um, what did they release? Have Some Fun. What is that? What did I write down there? Oh, I'm sorry. No, that was my note. Um, Steve, do you have this? This is the question of the evening.
I know what you're going to show, and every self-respecting Stooges fan needs that record. Jack White.
There you go.
Oh, you know what? No, I don't. Okay, I thought you were going to show Goose Creek. So
No, that's one I need to get. But yeah, this is Have Some Fun live at Ugano's. This was also a record store day. Are we seeing a
yeah,
pattern here? Are we seeing a pattern here? Right. So this is the record release party for Funhouse. Is this one? So they do and this came out in 2010, if you can believe that.
Iggy telling everybody that they're number one. What a guy.
Yeah.
What a
So
guy.
yeah, this is some good stuff as well too. So I think this is also out on CD. I think that
Yeah.
they've since released that as well too. So um,
So surprise, surprise. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say Craig was saying some more stuff about Electra 4000. Recently bought the Holy Modal Rounders and Spider John Corner with Willie Murphy at a record show. $20 for both of them. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
deal. But that Holy
that's a
Modal
steal.
Rounders record is
It's
usually like is people want a lot more money than it's actually worth, in my opinion.
yeah, it's good. It's got some interesting ideas, but it's not one that if you're collecting to complete that collection, yeah. But it's certainly not essential
Yeah.
to just a smaller collection or whatnot. But that's awesome, man.
Oldies
Craig and you were
yeah. Oldies Radio's been buying rare equipment for obscure music formats, and your equipment needs repairs. So you said you bought a laser disc. What did you buy recently on laser disc?
yeah. What was the laser disc that you got? Was it Weird Science? I hope it's Weird Science. You like that movie, Mark?
Oh man, we forgot to go over our sort of anniversaries thing that we're talking about.
We'll do that last.
We'll do that last. Yeah.
We'll do it order. All right. So Funhouse was received poorly by critics and the general public. David Alexander was dismissed in August of 1970 after arriving at the Goose Lake International Musical Festival too drunk to play.
Okay.
Now, we just talked about that. Goose Creek was released in 20. Oh gosh, Mark, my years all kind of run together since everything's
Probably
going
like
on. Was that 2020?
It was
or
it was recent.
2021?
Yeah, it was like probably within the last 3 years, I'd say.
So I think Jack White discovered that,
Okay.
and I don't remember the finer points to it, but it was put out by Jack White's label, and it's a complete concert and of really good quality, of all things considered, of Funhouse in its entirety there in 1970. So that's pretty cool to have. So by 1970, all the Stooges, with the exception of Ron Aston, had been seriously into heroin. Their performances became even more unpredictable. Pop became violent, antagonizing the audience, having trouble standing up on stage as his drug abuse exacerbated. Electra soon eliminated the Stooges from its roster, and the band was kind of in limbo for several months before the official breakup was announced on July the 9th of 1971.
So you basically have within, I mean, less than 3 years, right? You have, if you look at sort of active, when they're in the record stores, you have from July of 69 to 71. So you have basically 2 years that, they put out two really amazing records. At the time, people didn't realize, but now they're critically acclaimed albums.
Sure.
So what's sort of their legacy from those first two records? Like what do you think?
I would say it would just be like just what the MC5 is today. The MC5 broke up in 71. Or no, excuse me, 72. So just they hung out for about another year, I guess, than the Stooges did. But yeah, I would say that I would say that their legacy is pretty much the same as it is now. I think those records are so strong that I don't think they would fall kind of in the obscure category or whatnot. I think they would still, regardless of what Iggy Pop would do solo and hooking up with Bowie and getting acting roles and whatnot, I think they would still be hailed and still be held in such regard as they are nowadays. Probably maybe even a little more if they were just that much more underground, so to speak.
Well, I think that a lot of you hear a lot of bands talk about, oh, hey, this album or the Funhouse, and I think that, of course, like you said, Bowie latched onto it pretty early on and said, hey, this was, he saw the genius of it. So I think that, even without sort of what we've seen since then, I think that their legacy is cemented very well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that they're untouched. They achieved greatness that a lot of the bands at that time frame just could not do. And even if you look at some of the bands that were on the Electra label, like I think Clear Light is a great example. Even a band like Ars Nova, um, uh, they Election's another one too. These bands were, they tried to be edgy and they tried to do things, and they just, it just didn't work the same way as what the Stooges did by pressing the self-destruct button. Oh, real quick, I forgot. I have something sitting here that we should probably talk about. So this little bundle of joy.
Look
Uh,
at that.
so this came out in I don't know if I think has it been re-released? This came out
I
in
don't think so.
okay.
I know that they have put out a highlight disc.
Yeah, there was a highlight vinyl of this. So this is the if you're a uh, if you're into this kind of stuff, this is the complete Funhouse session. So every single note recorded by the Stooges during those sessions. This came out on Rhino Handmade in, I think it was, like I said, '99. I think is when this came out. Um, Rhino Handmade was like, I sort of just kind of started learning about this kind of stuff. Like they used to do these, these discs that were very small runs, but they would do CDs. There's a Paul Butterfield blues band, their live album. It's like the Live at the Troubadour.
Mhm.
It was another Electra album. Just never really was on CD, so they put it out on Rhino Handmade, which I think came out either before or after this. Um, but this is like really if you just want to, I don't know, man. It's a little punishing to listen to all this. There is the
All right, everybody, shut up.
there is the Down on the Street single mix for that, which is the one that has the keyboards. Have you ever heard that
Yeah,
one? And
I have.
it's kind of it sounds like it's like they're trying to make the Doors out of it. Where
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's a very obvious attempt to make them sound doorish.
right, um, to do two songs on one CD. Okay, all right. Yeah, we want it to be like the single, but not necessarily something that I think is, a
Necessary.
good West. But this does have the. It was limited to 3,000 copies of this. So, man, I had been looking on eBay
I remember
for
when you got that.
the longest time trying to get this, and one showed up that was like the cheapest one that I've ever seen. It was like easily $100 less than what it normally went for. The only stipulation was that um, it was a local pickup. That was the only thing. So I'm gonna give a shout out to my buddy Mike Petrucci. Craig, I know you're a friend of him on Facebook. Mike is a hilarious guy. Um, he is a Anglophile music stalwart. I met him through the Mojo message boards like in 2003. I was posting on there, and it was all sort of folks that were, in the UK. And I posted a thread that said "Ask an American anything," and then it was just just like people asking me questions about America from the British perspective, and like he chimed in, and we've been friends ever since. So I told Mike, I said, "Hey Mike, can you hook me up with this?" And he was able to make that happen. So thank you, Mike. That is the reason why I have this in my possession right now because of Mike. Yes, Mike is the man. Great dude. Have you ever hung out with Mike? I know he's sort of like he's pretty close to you, right, Craig? He's not too far away from you, I think. Um, Craig was saying it's cool to find artists to talk about finding Stooges or MC5 albums and cutout bins or used for
Yeah,
pennies back in the day. Blind buys cheap and they changed their musical minds. Yes, like I even feel that somehow, Mojo talked about Funhouse quite a bit. You know what I mean? They would that came up quite a bit. So, um, yeah, they would talk about them. So, but yeah, let's continue. Craig will cut his bat. He got to meet up with him a few years back. Hung out with him for about an hour before I had a show to go to in Chicago. Nice. I've never actually met him in person. I was in Chicago for the Grateful Dead fairly well, and we just were like our schedules didn't jive. We were kind of, we had to take We had to take the trains, and he doesn't drive, so that's what people do in Chicago. So it was kind of hard to be like, yeah, meet me here at this time or whatever. So one of these days. But he is a cool guy. He's in a band called Letterbomb, and they are just he loves the British rock invasion, and he loves that. He's a very smart dude. He knows his music. So yeah, go ahead. Let's hear it, Steve. What we got
Right
next?
on.
1973.
All right. So 71.
71. Okay.
We're still in 71. So Bowie meets Iggy Pop September 7th, 1971 at Max's Kansas City. They hit it off, and the next day he gets Iggy Pop a contract signed and wants to take him to England, and does so, and he gets a 2-year record deal at that point. In March of 72.
Which is insane. Let's just say that, which is just absolutely insane.
I guess Bowie had some stroke.
Yeah, he did.
It's like, oh yeah, we'll give this guy. Yeah, sure.
Well, I think Main Man wasn't Main Man his manager's label anyhow. Like I think.
Yes.
Yes. So okay. So it was like whatever. That he was just doing him a favor at that point, I think. So.
Well, he was taking care of him.
Yeah.
It's as you mentioned before. Bowie was a big Stooges fan, so
yeah.
He was taking care of them. So in March of 72, Pop and Williamson went to the UK. They attempted to reconstruct the Stooges with British musicians, but did not work out.
Right.
So they got the Ashton brothers, which was their second choice.
Right.
So, which is wild to think about.
They were like, Iggy's like, James is going to play guitar. We want you on bass. Like he gets demoted to bass, right? For that next album. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you've got James Williamson, Iggy Pop, and the Ashton brothers. It was at this time where they were billed as Iggy in the Stooges. It wasn't the Stooges.
Right.
It was Iggy in the Stooges. So let's see. They also added piano player Bob Sheriff and then Scott Thurston later on to tour with them starting in February of 73. There are a ton of bootlegs of this era that exist, and they're all in varying quality. So just if you want to explore this era of the Stooges, just be very mindful that some are great and some are just some of the worst recordings you've ever heard as far as quality of the recording goes. So around this time, the Stooges also recorded what later became known as the Detroit Rehearsal tapes. And these are basically studio recordings, very raw studio recordings that you could kind of see where they were going for that fourth album at that time. They were intended to put out another record to honor that deal, but after Raw Power did not do so hot, they again were dropped by Columbia. So, and the Stooges officially disbanded in February of 1974 due to dwindling professional opportunities, infighting, drugs, of course. And this is kind of where Iggy Pop's stage behavior became too much for the band to take. And that is the last of the Stooges. Their last performance was in February 9th of 1974 in Detroit, Michigan, which was later released in 76 as Metallic KO. And do you know what one of their last shows, who were the two opening bands for the Stooges?
Ooh,
I'll give you a hint.
Okay. Hey,
oh, you don't?
Give me a hint. I probably know it after you say it, but go ahead.
All right. So it was a triple bill. The Stooges were headlining with a band who was just starting to make traction, Blue Oyster Cult, and opening for both of them was Kiss.
Okay.
So Kiss, Blue Oyster Cult, and the Stooges. That is quite a show. So
that's interesting. That is very interesting. So we talked about. Did we talk about Raw Power? Did we get there? Where are we at?
We're done. They broke up.
Okay, so right,
it's 1974.
1974. So let's back up. Let's back up the bookmobile a little bit here. So Raw Power is February of 73. couple of things to talk about that album. There's a few CDs that exist of this. There's obviously the Bowie mix, which was, from my understanding, it's basically very open, right? It's not punchy, right?
It's not punchy, and it's a very quiet mix for the Stooges.
Okay, right. So they, like, Iggy really never really felt like it was the definitive version, and whatever. And then comes along, the CD era. I believe it's called the Raw Power in the Red mix. Is that what it's called? I think.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
Henry Rollins is kind of helping out remixing this, and I think even in the liner notes, like, Iggy was like, his input was very limited, I think, and he just wanted to make sure that the thing was in the red the entire time, and that mix is amazing.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
Yeah,
That's the way to hear that record. And Iggy has said, people were always asking him, "Hey, when are you going to put out that? When are you going to put out that?" And so
yeah.
finally, like you said, he was just like, "Yeah, just make sure it's in the red and just send it on its way."
Oldies Radio made me laugh. He said Iggy was on the Pretty Woman soundtrack. Oldies Radio, enlighten me. Which Iggy Pop song is on the Pretty Woman soundtrack? Is it Lust for Life? No.
China Girl, probably.
You my China girl.
Just shut your mouth.
I do have there's about 100 different versions of this.
Yeah.
But I do have the Metallic KO record, and it's hilarious. I mean, it's to the point where they're going to be in a fight, right? And I think maybe it did. Didn't it lead to a fight at the end of the
Yeah, I think
show?
there was a fight after we.
And he was like, just some of the tracks on there were kind of funny, where it was like, he's like, "You don't even deserve a 20-minute Louie Louie," and then they just, here we go, they go into it. He said, I think it was something else.
It's much like the Sex Pistols. Huh.
Are you sure it wasn't Train
it's almost like
Spotting?
the Sex Pistols.
Real Wild Child. Okay. Sorry, the Sex Pistols at the Fillmore when they're saying.
No. It's San Antonio at Somebody's, where they just spend the entire time. It's on there. It's in San Antonio in '78. They spend the entire time just antagonizing the audience and calling them rednecks and things like. And you can just hear them going back and forth and back and forth. Speaking of Real Wild Child, that was on. You remember that movie Problem Child?
There's a real wild. Well, yes. I think I saw
it
that.
Was on there.
I think I saw that one in the theater, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So let's see. I got a couple more things I just wanted to show just for fun, and then just
I got
some more
things
Iggy
too. I'll let
stuff.
You go.
So this was a little bit of a disappointment. So I had. Do you remember when these? I don't know if you were a big fan of these, like, side by side things that came out for Record Store Day. Did you get these at all?
No, they never really interested me.
Not even the mystery discs. Okay. Do you want to take the box? Do you want the $100, or do you want to take what's in the box? I'll take the box. There could be more. So this is the side by sides they would do.
But there could also be less too. So don't discredit that.
With the Carnival Cruise song. I'm not familiar with this here. Oh, Oldies Radio has a Metallic KO. Good on you. Good on you.
Ooh.
So they did these quite a bit, where they would have, so it's like, there's the one song that's by the band, and then they had somebody do a cover of it. So this was the Black Keys and the Stooges. And, like, this is in, like, a really hard plastic thing. I had not opened this until today, right? I just broke the seal on this. And, like, whatever the plastic that they made out of, keep in mind, this came out in, like, 2012. This is a Record Store Day 2012 thing. Stooges with No Fun. I love that. Like, that vinyl's great. And
that
then
is cool.
The Black Keys doing it. But, like, there was definitely a chemical reaction here. You're not going to be able to see that. But the record is like, oh, there you go. See that?
Ooh.
Yeah, so it plays like trash now. So if you got these, you might want to open those up. So I put it in a paper sleeve, so we did not have any more science experiments happening. So I don't know if it was just because of, maybe it got, the humidity or the moisture or something like that. I got that, and I got that.
Ooh, look at that.
That was fun.
It wasn't no fun. It was fun. Yeah.
Also got the Search and Destroy and Penetration single on Sundays. This is back when these were $5 for these. $5 for that, man. I think it's also worth noting it was on Columbia in the United States, right? So it came out on the
I've got an English copy of Raw Power. I think it's on CBS.
Okay, that makes sense. That would make sense. And then we have a few of the albums. I know you want to talk about these too, like 1974-ish or so, when Iggy and James are going to do another album, right? Is that a bomb copy?
Yes.
Is yours it's the Alive Natural Sounds, right?
Yep.
Oh no, mine's a little bit different than yours. Look at the back of that.
Hold it is. I got less pictures. What is this about?
Yeah, you do. So they had a couple singles, right? So there's the Tight Pants, Scene of the Crime, and let me show you the picture on that one. These I think are like originals from the 70s, but I'm sick of you. Isn't that a great picture?
That is.
But this is what can we say about this album?
It's the unofficial Four Stooges record. Consolation prizes, so amazing. It's great, man. Yeah. It's if you love the first three Stooges album, you just want that extra fix and just want that extra. Gosh, I wish they had more. Get Kill City.
And I think this was to come out when in like 70. Like
75, 76?
Yeah, like soon
76,
after that.
I think, yeah.
What do you see what this thing looks like? When you're a fan of Bomp Records, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
When they talk about, you have anything that's on the Starburst vinyl that they've done?
I don't. I have nothing that cool, I promise. Ooh, look at that. Look at that.
This is before everything went in the toilet. Oh, you got the regular black vinyl. I think their pressing plant that they did, is it Rainbow Records, and the closed down, caught on fire or something like that?
Something, yeah.
Recently, that was who they were going through, so they don't have all that stuff. But yeah, this is definitely one, like, if you wanna sort of explore that kind of, what do you want to say? Kind of that unheard stuff. This is sort of like this might even be like a good place to start, even as, like, if you like this, you'll like every single Stones or every single Stooges record. Do you agree?
And probably every Stones record too.
Yeah. And every MC5 record and every single all that other good stuff. Let me see what else I have to show. I got some. What else do you got, Steve?
So this is More Power.
More Power. Okay, talk to me about that.
So this is essentially the fourth record that they were trying to do. I mean, they've done this several times in various forms. My only complaint about this is it does not have Rubber Legs, which is one of my favorite Stooges songs. It's so great, and it has the piano in it, so you can really get a feel for where they were going. But other than that, it's got I Got a Right, which I'm sure you know. I mean, that's on. That usually kicks off everything. Scene of the Crime, Tight Pants. Or the Tight Plants would be a cool song too. Open Up and Bleed. I'm Sick of You. Born in a Trailer. Kind of what they were thinking would be that lost fourth Stooges record. This is really good. The mixes are raw. It sounds more like the red mix that they ended up doing for Raw Power. It's really good. And the last thing that I will show is this really cool book by Mick Wall called Raw Power, Iggy and the Stooges from 1972. It is really great.
Nice.
It's just it is very, very, very out of print. But it's fantastic.
Those pictures are awesome. There's a lot of pictures in there I've never seen before. That's awesome.
Oh, this is probably 200 pages of nothing but photographs. It's really, really great. So if you can find that cheap, I would jump all over it.
That's awesome, man. Um, let's see. So they reform, right? So Iggy and the Stooges reform. Um, why did they reform? I'm trying to think if was there a reason behind it, or was just like they just were like it's time to do this, right?
I don't know the official thing, but keep in mind that DKT, the MC5,
Hmm.
they had reformed and had some pretty good interest in them, and were doing pretty well. And I don't, I'm sure that would have had to have at least played somewhat of a part when they saw what kind of financial gains those guys were having. So I don't know for certain, but when the weirdness came out, I was working at a record store and I have never
Yeah,
listened to it.
you never listened to it.
I just never listened to it. It was one of those things that when it came out, I was so hesitant on listening to it because I just didn't want to be disappointed that I completely avoided it.
It's pretty bad. I was in the record store. Um, I as soon as they released it, I bought it sort of on that day. And when I went to the record store, they were listening to it, and they were all kind of like, "Yeah, this is kind of weird." And yeah, you can tell he's trying to capture like the early, he's trying to capture like the early kind of stuff, but it just doesn't exactly work.
Who produced that?
Steve Albini, if you can believe that.
Okay, wow. Okay.
So here is a copy that I got for $5. I'm sure you can't see that.
Wow.
$5. It's a double album. Well, it's fourth side etched, basically. Not a joke this time. But yeah, he's very out of tune. Like it's like kind of like tone deaf. Like he's not really in. We talked about that post pop depression. I was just like he's in key. He's on pitch. He just isn't for this. But pretty much it's the original Stooges. So Scott and Ron are back, and they have Mike Watt playing bass from he's from the Minutemen.
Man,
What
yeah.
else was he in? Was he just the
Oh, a firehouse, excuse me, fire hose.
fire hose? That's what it
Um,
was.
um, it's a lot of solo stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's one of the best bass players
Uh,
ever.
Craig said, feel the same way when they reform. Did a cursory listen, and that's about it. Was more impressed with post pop depression. Yes, Craig, that was actually the reason why we talked about this show. At the top of the show, that was one of my it was my show and tell, and I have it on vinyl too. There's actually two. Um, there you go. I think that was one of my top albums for 2016 for sure. Post pop depression. I love this album. It was so good. So, um, Craig, is it up there? Is it in your upper echelon? But here's a few other things, Steve. I just we'll show, and we will call it a night, my friend.
Look at
Let's see. So talking about post pop depression, here's another one that they released. This was live at the Royal Albert Hall.
Oh,
Um, so triple LP. They do a lot of Iggy Pop songs, like they do Lust for Life, Nightclub, and China Girl. So they do some of that stuff. They do Repo Man. And then they do, the album top to bottom. So this is
they
this is
do
it.
Repo Man. Okay,
Yeah, they do. Yep.
yeah, right
Uh,
on. Very cool. I love
th-
that movie.
this is
It's
this is
one of my favorites.
so it's a good one. Emilio Estevez in it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a great movie. I love that movie.
so this is a fun little a little chestnut. Um, I also got this, which is on my least favorite, and I should probably get this out of this plastic thing because it's another one of those like hard plastic things. Uh, Iggy and the Stooges live in Detroit.
Legend. Yeah, they put out that DVD. That's a good DVD, man. That's.
There it is, right
Ooh,
there.
look at that. Very cool.
Yeah, so that's on 10 inch. I can't really. I don't want to scratch it all up. So let me just
Is that the full show on that? On that, I imagine that it is. It's not very long.
Down on the Street, 1969. I Want to Be Your Dog, Real Cool Time. 1970, Funhouse, and Not Right. So it sounds like it's the Funhouse, complete Funhouse live. And they also did this one too. So this is the Iggy and the Stooges Raw Power Live in the Hands of the Fans. Are you familiar with this one?
Mm-hmm.
So this is another one that's I think it's was this All Tomorrow's Parties, I think. I want to say. I don't know offhand. But yeah, they do the whole raw power live. So there's a lot of really, again, there's some, and people felt like that this stuff needed to be documented. So, you do have a lot of the later stuff that's on there. What about this one? Are you familiar with this one?
That's one that I've seen that that was the final Stooges record, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah. This one, what was this?
No.
2013. I got a really good deal on this through Fat Possum. I think it was only like $10 or something like that. So, I don't really have too much of an opinion on it though. It's not, again, it's weird how that there's a lot of albums, and that's typical for Iggy's career as well too, right? Have you heard this one before?
I have no idea what Zombie Birdhouse is.
It's a terrible album. It's not good at all. But they've since repressed this. This came out not too long ago.
What is it?
It's like him sort of doing sort of like Afrobeat kind of. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't.
Holy smokes!
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's from 1982. So leave that to your imagination. What Iggy Pop now sounded like in 1982. No shirt required. Phil Collins. Yeah. So it's Chris Stein plays bass. He was in Blondie, right? Yeah. But yeah, it's sort of like I don't know. I think it's sort of like it's a strange kind of thing. Do you have any of his solo albums? Do you have any of that stuff?
I do not. I've got The Idiots and Lust for Life, and those are good, but I haven't ventured much into like New Values and things like that. Like I don't know any of those.
I'm bored. I'm the chairman of the
mate.
board.
I love his interviews. Have you seen his interview when he's completely off the rail as opposed to the other times when he's in Australia?
Yeah, this is there's some interesting stuff on that one too. But I'm Bored is my favorite song on that one's just really strange.
I mean, The Passengers. I mean, that's a great record.
Of course. What's a promo copy for that one? I got lucky with that.
Ooh.
And then let's see, the Iggy Pop Live. Before broadcast, please audition it. It's really funny how that's blacking out there. TVI Fun Time 16, I Got the Right, Lust for Life, Dirt, Night Clubbing, and I Want to Be Your Dog. So
right on.
This is some good stuff. I think this is like from the that Iggy Pop extended versions. I think that's from the same concert or whatever.
Is okay
or whatever. So, but yeah, man, that was fun. That was fun. Do you have anything else? What else you got? You got some show and tell?
That's it, man.
That's
all
it.
I brought.
That's all you brought.
That's all I brought, man.
Well, that's another in the book. So, last but not least, Craig, we said thank you for everybody who played mixtape. Oldies Radio came away the big winner with 9 of the tracks for the mixtape. So thanks again, Oldies Radio. Craig, thank you for playing.
Yeah,
thank you guys for being here. You make this fun. Real quick, Steve, let's just wrap this little this little baby up here. I want to say happy birthday to Abdullah the Butcher, who turns 81 today. Did you happen to know that? Did you? I
did not. Okay. I did not.
Yeah. So happy birthday to Abdullah the Butcher. And then today is the 29th anniversary of the very first episode of Monday Night Raw.
Wow.
So 29 years. And because I come prepared, Steve, would you like to know some of those matches that were broadcast on that first night of Monday Night Raw? Can you guess what they are, though? Or do you know what they were?
All right. Bob Holly, who was like a spark plug at that time, he take on... Was he on the card?
No, he wasn't. No.
Okay. 1, 2, 3 Kid?
No.
Razor Ramon.
Razor Ramon was in a vignette, but he was he was not in a match.
Doink the Clown versus the Brooklyn Brawler.
No, Doink the Clown was in some vignettes, but he did not wrestle.
Was there any wrestling on this show?
There was 4 matches. and they all were kind of. It's interesting to see who was wrestling who, to really set the tone for what 1993 was all about. The first one was Yokozuna defeating Coco Beware,
Okay.
and then you have the Steiners defeat the Executioners.
Oh,
You have Shawn Michaels retaining the Intercontinental Championship by defeating Max Moon.
who saw that coming?
and then and then you have the Undertaker defeats Damien Demento. So
That's Dr. Demento's son.
that was Dr. Demento's son. No. So wow. So to think that got off the ground with that first episode.
But even then, I would take that over the past 5 years of like trash that we've been served. So,
so
anyway,
that's that. So thanks for everybody for watching. Steve, any final words?
everybody needs a copy of Funhouse. Seriously, you need it.
Stooges are essential. So awesome. Well, thank you for watching all.
Thank you guys for being here. Thank you.
We'll see you next week, God willing, and the creek doesn't rise. So
be safe. Sports truly.
Sports truly, and we'll see you guys. So take care.
Bye.